So here we go again. We knew that this was going to happen when Cenk Uygur announced a congressional run, but it has begun. They are really, really, really diving headfirst into relentless smears. There's a concerted effort to do a smear campaign against Cenk Uygur because he's now campaigning for the 25th District of California to be their congressperson. So let's take a look at one of the worst articles doing this, even though there are many doing this. This is from the establishment outlet, The Daily Beast. They say, Dems fear carpetbagger Cenk Uygur will lose them California seat. The firebrand Young Turks co-founder is running for former Representative Katie Hill's seat, and his controversial reputation is sending shivers through Democrats. Uygur's opponents could draw on his 2 decades of controversial statements. In a 2000 blog post, for example, Uygur called women flawed while complaining about his sex life. Quote, "It seems like there is a sea of tits here, and I'm drinking in tiny droplets," Uygur wrote, adding later in the post, "Obviously, the genes of women are flawed. They are poorly designed creatures who do not want to have sex nearly as often as needed for the human race to get along peaceably and fruitfully." All right, let me pause there. He lives in Miami, and he's writing about how sad it is that he can't get laid. And so he says, obviously jokingly, well, obviously the problem is the genes of women are flawed because they don't want to sleep with me. This is much ado about nothing. Now, I mean, I guess if you're a Puritan and you say, hey, I don't want anybody to discuss sex ever for any reason, fine. But he's not a Puritan, and his whole job as, at the time, a writer, but also a radio host and a political commentator, his whole job is to keep it real and shoot from the hip and talk off the cuff. And that's what he does. So, see, this is what they're going to do. And you're going to notice a theme here. Every single thing they say, none of it's policy related. None of it. All of it is like, PC outrage, go, be offended. Are you offended? Are you offended? Are you offended? Are you offended? And it's smear attempts say, obviously he hates women. Look at what he said here. He's poking fun at himself for not being able to get laid. That's what that is. Now, you don't have to like that line. You don't have to like that he wrote it, but to try to use that to say, and this, again, is the implication, well, he's a misogynist and he's not for women and helping them on the issues they care most about. That is fundamentally not true. Every woman who has ever worked with him has said, in no uncertain terms, he's incredibly respectful and he believes in them and he helps them out. Anna wrote a beautiful thing on Twitter the other day talking about how nobody believed in me, Cenk believed in me, and I've never had a single issue with him over all the times, the years I've worked with him. And obviously on policy issues, he's for, all the positions that are the strongest position on women's issues. Cenk is already there. And I have no doubt that he'd fight harder for that than any of the other people running. But what do? PC outrage. Oh, you said something politically incorrect. Guilty. He said something politically incorrect. In a different time, maybe your offense campaign might actually land. But in today's day and age, I'm telling you guys, man, people have had enough of this. They've had enough of this nonsense. It could backfire on them. Let's continue. The blog posts have caused Uygur trouble before. In 2017, Justice Democrats, a progressive group Uygur co-founded, cut ties with him and Kohler over the blog posts. Uygur has apologized for his earlier writings, telling the Wrap that they were written when he was a different guy, but many of his other controversial remarks occurred more recently and are captured on video in Young Turks broadcasts. Several of the remarks are demeaning to women, a sensitive issue in the district after the nude photographs helped force Hill's resignation. Uygur detractors, for example, have highlighted a 2012 Young Turks clip where Uygur and other Young Turks staffers discussed a mother-daughter porn duo. Uygur quizzed his co-hosts on whether they would have sex with both women at once, leaving aside concerns about incest. Oh, God. Look at what they're trying to go after him with. Uygur said that he certainly would have sex with the mother and daughter together if given the opportunity. Quote, "If I was single, no question, I would do it," Uygur said. Uygur's foes in the district have also highlighted past remarks about bisexual women. In 2012, for example, Uygur said he had never been attracted to Sex and the City actress Cynthia Nixon until she came out as bisexual. Quote, when I found out she was bisexual, I thought, Cynthia Nixon, Uygur said, raising his voice in approval. All of a sudden, Cynthia Nixon. In another broadcast on declining rates of sexual activity in Japan, Uygur said he would travel to Japan to take advantage of the opportunity if he were still single. Quote, Japan is butter, I'm a hot knife, Uygur said, waving his hands to illustrate the metaphorical knife. I'd run through those girls. Uygur has also criticized Orthodox Jews and religiously conservative Muslims, saying that they're wasting their lives and teaching their children things that are, quote, Looney Tunes. Uygur, a Turkish American, has also been skeptical in the past of the Armenian genocide. While Uygur now acknowledges that it happened, his previous stance could be another stumbling block for him in the district, according to Castleberry. Quote, we have a significant Armenian population in Southern California. It's one of our largest minorities, said Castleberry, the president of the Simi Valley Democratic Club. It's really troubling he didn't consider that. Uygur opponents like Castleberry have also highlighted his criticism of Barack Obama, a favorite of many Democratic voters during the 2012 presidential race. Uygur, a frequent critic of establishment Democrats, complained that Obama wasn't liberal enough. Quote, he's conservative in his bones, so I've got no love for Obama whatsoever, Uygur said. Guys, they gave away the game there at the end. They gave away the little game that they're playing at the end there. They're trying to say, oh, you're going to run as a Democrat? And you've said mean things about Barack Obama? How could you? This is an establishment protection racket. That's what it is. Just so everybody knows, it wasn't like, oh, it was organic and they stumbled upon all these things that they were offended by that Cenk said over the years. No, let me explain to you the way politics work. The second he announced, there was opposition research going on from the Democratic establishment and from the media. And what they do is they feed it to their buddies in mainstream media, and they say, here, write a hatchet job on Cenk Uygur. You think they don't know that this is a hatchet job? They know that it's a hatchet job. They know that they're just trying to shiv his campaign in the side and make sure it goes nowhere. They know that that's what they're doing. They don't care. Because this is how they play politics. They play dirty, low-blow politics, and that's exactly what this is. But they messed up at the end there because they gave away the game. The game is, oh my God, he said Barack Obama wasn't left enough. Oh my God, Cenk Uygur would be way to the left of Barack Obama. And he would not be compromising. He would not work with the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers. He would not kowtow. He would not fall in line. He would not do the bidding of corporate America. He would not represent a new democratic, corporatist, centrist ideology. And that's the problem. And that's the root of all this. They don't agree with him ideologically and philosophically. But instead of saying, hey man, here's why Cenk Uygur's wrong with his position on Medicare for all. Here's why he's wrong with his position on free college. Here's why he's wrong with his position on a living wage. Here's why he's wrong when he says he wants to end the wars. Instead of doing that, because they would lose those arguments across the board, what do? Oh, you said such politically incorrect, mean things, good sir. Yeah? Well, listen, man. Hopefully it doesn't work. Now, politics is dirty, and sometimes it ends up working. But I hope that people are smart enough to see through this nonsense. Can you say, hey, man, I don't like the fact that a dude is talking about sex so openly and talking about women that he'd like to sleep with? You don't have to like that. But is that something that disqualifies one to do the job of representing a district and fighting for the policy positions that they believe in deeply? No, of course not. Of course not. Is criticizing Barack Obama from the left something that should disqualify you? No, of course not. If anything, that should be an asset. That should be something people look at favorably. Oh, he looks at all of the shortcomings of Barack Obama and says, those are shortcomings. Let's not do that. Let's go in the other direction. So, I honestly, at this point, I think that this stuff that they do against him is embarrassing. And the advice that I would give to Cenk is, you have to go after the media because they really are dishonest. They are dishonest, and they are going to try to portray you in the most negative light imaginable. I mean, does anybody really think that this article accurately sums up the stuff that Cenk Uygur is in favor of and the stuff that he would fight for? Does anybody think that? No. Even the people who are writing it don't think that. Even the establishment Democrats who did the Oppo research don't think that. But they run with it anyway because this is their only hope. This is a Hail Mary pass. How are we going to beat him? I don't know. Let's find outrageous things he said in the past and use them against him and hope that people feel offended and say, I cannot bring myself to vote for him. That's their play. That's all they have. But I think what Cenk is going to do is stick to the issues, call out the media when they're doing nonsense like this, stick to a strong populist anti-corruption message, and hopefully it works. Again, my only fear for the district is I don't know. My gut reaction is to think that any district around LA is not going to be a middle to lower income district. And for Cenk to win, and for any populist candidate to win, it needs to be a middle to lower income district. The only places around the country where populism doesn't work and where strong anti-corruption, anti-establishment message doesn't work are high-income districts. And, I don't know the specifics of his district, but, if it is bordering on that higher end, then he's in trouble. But, do recognize what's going on here. This is a smear campaign. They're going to continue to smear him. They're not going to stop, and they're going to hope that you don't recognize that everything they laid out there does not in any way, shape, or form reflect on his policy beliefs and what he fights for now. By the way, some of the stuff he actually apologized for. Some of the stuff he's apologized for that he said. Other stuff he didn't, but some stuff he apologized for. But again, they don't care. And that's the nature of a smear. It's not about, here's a thing I actually disagree with you on, now please respond. The whole point of the smear is, I don't care what you say, I'm just going to tar your name and do as much as I can to, throw you under the bus here. And that's what they're doing. So, I wish him well, and I hope he goes on the offense, and I hope that this stuff doesn't work, and I hope everybody sees through it for what it is. A transparent effort to kneecap somebody who's a real lefty who's going to fight for the people. And this is what disincentivizes good people from getting involved in politics. I'm sure there's a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there who watch this show, you might want to get involved in politics, but then you think, oh God, I tweeted something in 2013 that I didn't say the right thing, or I was too edgy, or whatever it might be. This is why I've always been really outspoken on the side of free speech and free expression, and I've come out strongly against political correctness, is because exactly of stuff like this. I saw it from a mile away that this is what they're going to do. When good people try to get involved in politics to make a change for the better, to get us Medicare for all, to get us free college, to get us a living wage, to get us a Green New Deal, to end the wars, to legalize marijuana, to free the nonviolent drug offenders. When good people try to get into politics to make real change, the number one play they will use against us is, you haven't always been enlightened and for good policy positions. You've said a lot of outrageous bad stuff. Would you look at that? Nobody should take you seriously because look at the lack of civility you had. Look at the gross things you said. Wow. You should be ashamed. You should be embarrassed. This is their only play, guys. So that's why we need to have a united front against this nonsense. Because what would you rather have? Somebody who never said a politically incorrect thing in their entire life, but when they get in there, they're going to serve the corporations at every turn? Or somebody who said many politically incorrect things, but when they get in power, they're going to fight for you. They're going to fight against the corruption. They're going to fight in favor of the policy positions that the polls show that you favor. Which one would you rather have? I know which one I'd rather have.